today what I want to talk about is about Paul. Everybody seems to say that every time the word law or Torah gets brought, they bring that subject up. Everything everybody says is, oh, but Paul said this, Paul said that. That's the first person they run to is Paul, Paul, Paul. Yet Yeshua said in Matthew 5, verse 17 through 19, till heaven and earth pass away, the law is in effect. And whoever teaches that we don't have to keep this law, teaches men to break even the least of these commandments, he shall be called the least in the kingdom. So now, Paul has to line with that. Yeshua doesn't have to line up with Paul. Anyways, by the way, I say Yeshua. You know, some of y'all may say Jesus. Some say Yahushua. I say Yahushua or Yeshua. You know, but that's not what we're here to talk about right now. We're here to speak about Paul and the Torah and the commandments. So here lies the first issue. First of all, here's an example of what I mean about misunderstanding Paul. Like, I mean, he's been misunderstood according to 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 15 and 16. The writings of Paul are hard to understand, which many people misunderstand it. Many people misinterpret it. Like I've done myself. I misunderstood Paul quite a few times myself. So I can't knock you for that. But here's the thing. You know, they're hard to understand. Like he might say a couple things about circumcision here and there. So everybody says, Paul said we don't have to get circumcised, so we don't have to do it. Yet he was the first one. Yes, Paul himself in Acts chapter 16 verse 1 through 3, he was the first one to run and circumcise a man named Timothy, a Greek by the way, whose mother was a Jew. So he was the first one to run and circumcise a man in Acts 16 verse 1 through 3. But that's another subject, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not here to talk about circumcision right now. Even though Paul did circumcise another man. Yes, he did. Acts 16 verse 1 through 3. Yes. Anyways, about the law. If Paul said we don't have to keep the law or obey it, he contradicted himself. Seriously. So here's where I'm first going to go, reading from the New King James Version. I'm gonna read from Galatians 3. I'm going to start in verse 10. It says this, for as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse. That's where everybody stops reading. Everybody says, see, if you keep the law, you're under curse. Hold on, keep reading. What does this say? It says, for it is written, cursed is everyone who does not continue in all the things which are written in the book of the law. And he quoted that from Deuteronomy 27:26, if you want to read it from there directly. But so, I mean, that's enough for me. That's enough proof for me. I mean, need I say more? Need anybody say more? That sums it all up for me, at least. Curses everyone who does not continue, you know, in the things written in the book of the law. I mean, it can't get any clearer than that. But anyways, the next verse says, but that no one is justified by the law in the sight of God is evident, for the just shall live by faith. All right, perfect. Now we have an issue with that. That's where the issue lies. It says no one is justified by the law in the sight of God. But hold up, Romans 2:13 says, for not the hearers of the law are just in the sight of God, but the doers of the law will be justified. Galatians 3:11, no one is justified by the law in the sight of God. Romans 2:13, but the doers of the law will be justified in the sight of God. So either we have two direct contradictions here, or he's speaking about another law. Galatians 3:11, the word for law is the word nomos, right? So that word right there could mean any law. I believe the law he's referring to is the law of sin. This is why. Go to Galatians 3:19. Let's skip down a few verses. In Galatians 3:19 it says, what purpose then does the law serve? It was added because of transgressions. Now hold up. Now, how was the Sabbath added because of transgressions? Or how was sacrificing animals added because of transgressions? Which one makes more sense? The Sabbath was added because of transgressions, or sacrificing animals was added because of transgressions for atonement? which obviously you know about atonement. If you know a little something, you know about atonement, that they sacrificed animals to be atoned for their sin. It was added because of transgressions. And you could read about the law of sin in Leviticus chapter 6 verse 25, in more detail. But so obviously the law that he's referring to here is the law of sin, of sacrificing animals to be atoned for sin and all that. So let's skip down a few verses. Verse 24 says, therefore the law was our tutor to bring us to Christ, that we might be justified by faith. But after faith has come, we are no longer under a tutor. So people say, yeah, oh, you see, we don't have to keep the law anymore because after faith in him has come, we are no longer under the tutor. And I was the first one to quote this verse back in the days, and that's a powerful verse. That's one of the heaviest verses that you could ever come across concerning the law. I was the first one to always use this, and I was like, what? Every time I'll read it, but now I got the understanding of what it says. And after faith has come in the Messiah, we are no longer under that law. We don't have to sacrifice animals anymore to be atoned for sin. The Messiah was our atonement. After faith in him has come, we are no longer under that law of sin. Simple, it's not clear. I'm doing all this off the top of my head. I didn't have to write down notes. I'm just doing this off the top of my head. It's simple. It's not anything hard. But that is just a tremendous stumbling block, for a lot of people. But I say that to say this, man, that what Paul said has to line up with our Messiah, man. And our Messiah said in Matthew 5, verse 17 through 19, so heaven and earth pass away, man. And did heaven and earth pass away yet? No. And they also say, he said in verse 17 that I did not come to abolish the law. I came to fulfill. Now everybody wants to say, oh, but he fulfilled the law, so we don't have to obey it. First of all, that's not in scripture. Second of all, he didn't fulfill the whole law yet. I'm not saying he broke the law. He didn't break any commandments. I am saying he didn't fulfill the whole law yet. For example, he didn't fulfill the Feast of Trumpets. The Feast of Trumpets is symbolic of what's to happen, of his second coming when the trumpets will blast. But he didn't fulfill that yet because his second coming didn't come yet. Or in Isaiah 66 where it talks, I believe it's verse 17 all the way through towards the end, how it talks about how the wolf and the lamb will feed together and whatnot. And obviously that hasn't been fulfilled yet either. But the law hasn't fulfilled it yet. So I mean, he hasn't broken a commandment, but the whole law is not fulfilled yet, and all the prophets are not fulfilled yet. The heaven and the earth haven't passed away yet. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments shall be called the least in the kingdom. And whoever teaches man to break the least of these commandments shall be called the least in the kingdom. And now that's pretty serious, man. I mean, he also said in Matthew 23 verses 2 and 3, he also said that the scribes and the Pharisees sit in the seat of Moses. Whatever they say to you to do, do it. But don't do as they do, for they say and do not do. But I just wanted to shed some light on that, and feel free to hit me up with any questions. But please, man, I'm not trying to argue with nobody. I'm just trying to shed some light on what I believe. So any questions, feel free to hit me up. All right, man. So that's all I got for now. Until next time.